Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Kingfisher Knits podcast. My name is Madeline. I'm talking to you from my home in Zurich, Switzerland, where I live with my husband and my young children. I'm originally from the UK, and this is a predominantly knitting podcast where I talk about what I'm doing with knitting and yarn. I can crochet. I don't think I featured any crochet yet on the podcast. And I am a knitting designer and knitting pattern tech editor. I will put in the description box below all the places that you can find me, my website and the like, and also the link to where I put the show notes for anything that I mention within each episode. The show notes are hosted in the Ravelry group Kingfisher Knits, and as I said, I'll put the link in the description box below. And yeah, thank you to anyone who's coming back to watch another episode, and hello to any new viewers. I'm sorry if you do hear some construction noise in the background today. It's very hot here, 33 degrees centigrade. I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit, and it's not possible to completely close the windows. I would suffocate. I'm kind of wondering why I haven't tied my hair up, to be honest, because it's really hot. And they are building across the road from us. They have been for over a year. I'm really sick of it, but that's the way it is. Anyway, so I think I've done all the admin that's necessary, and I really wanted to dive straight into some knitting content, and then I stopped and thought, I don't really have any new finished objects or even whips that I can really show you. So I have realized that if I didn't podcast today, I will not podcast probably at all in July, because we will be having some family holidays. So I really wanted to get an episode in, but the fact of the matter is I finished 3 things recently and I can't show you any of them because of design constraints. One of them is the shawl I was doing with Trailer's yarn, which I've been showing in my previous episodes. I will be showing that off as soon as it is blocked. It is finished, but to me it doesn't make much sense to show it now that it's finished and not blocked. I was hoping to have that done, and I was thinking I'd podcast next week, and I just realised I wouldn't have the time. So I'm sorry, but please bear with me. I decided that I would show another finished object of mine, which is something I finished a while ago now, and is one of my own designs, and that is the Estonia Shawl. So Estonia is a town in central Italy. It was an old Roman town. And I picked the name based on the yarn that I had chosen. So this yarn is from Spinnwebstube. I have mentioned them before. She is a small yarn brand and shop in this region of Switzerland where I live, in the Zurich region. She's not in Zurich City. I will put all the links in. And this is in her Sockenwolle Twister base. That is a 75-25 superwash wool and silk. So it's not superwash merino, it's wool, but it's extra fine wool, and it feels near as makes no difference like merino, to be honest. And 25% silk rather than nylon. And yeah, it's a fingering weight base. I believe it's about 400 meters to 100 grams, and I used 2 skeins of it to make this crescent shaped shawl. So this shawl actually starts up here, and it's a crescent shape, so you don't have any increases, in the main body of the shawl. The increases are all made along the top edge, and it uses short rows and garter stitch and some slip stitch sections. So I will admit that this has not been blocked for some time, and I have worn it a lot. It's knitted a quite loose gauge on 5mm needles, which I really like the loose drapey garter stitch that gave, together with the silk content. And there are the stripe sections here, if you look up close, have these sections of slip stitches. I can't see how well you can see those here. So you have these sort of stitches jotting into the next colour. And you see that again, sorry, let me find a place, on the bordering here at the edge. So here, I will admit, this has been blocked several months ago now, and I wore it a lot. And in these particular choice of colours, There is contrast, but not huge contrast. Some of the testers who tested this, one of them did it in a cream and a blue, and it's the slip stitch feature is really, really prominent. You can really clearly, and you see it quite clearly here as well. And I chose the name Estonia because it's a this particular town it made me think, so first was the Roman, the purple. So purple was royal for the Romans, and then the stones made me think of all the rocks and the stones in the Roman ruins. Anyway, so this is a very simple project. As I said, it's basically all garter stitch and slip stitches. I don't think that there are any pearl stitches at all in this. I'm trying to think. No, there are no pearl stitches. And it makes this really, really long crescent-shaped shawl, which is my preferred style for a scarf. So I would rather knit a really long crescent shawl than knit a scarf, personally. And when you don't want a very deep shawl, but you want something that you're going to wear, okay, I'm going to put it on, but it's really hot in here, that you're going to wear, much more bandana style, wrapped up around. This you can wrap it once. You can even keep wrapping it. You can tie it here, or you can keep wrapping it again. I'm not going to wrap it again because I will probably faint. But this is the way I prefer to knit my shawls. I want them basically to be like a scarf rather than a classic, really long, deep shawl. And this pattern, no, that's the wrong side. This pattern is available in my Ravelry store. And I will soon. I had a really lovely person translate it into German, because given that the yarn used is Swiss yarn, I thought it would be really nice if Rita, who owns Spinnwebstube, could sell perhaps the pattern with the yarn in her shop. And in that case, of course, while a lot of people here do knit from English patterns, I thought it wouldn't hurt to have it in German as well. So that will be coming soon. I have everything ready. I just need to format it basically and actually add the PDF to my Ravelry store. But that was really, really lovely yarn to knit with. So what I actually was inspired to do today, given that I cannot show you even particularly any whips, and I was kind of surprised that I didn't have whips to show you, and then I realised, I was watching Amy of Stranded Diaries, the Stranded podcast, excellent podcast. I really suggest you check it out if you haven't already. She's a hand dyer based in the south of the UK. She's actually very close to where I come from in the UK. She's right on the very south coast, and I'm just about 45 minutes inland. I'm not literally now, obviously, but where my family is from and where my home in England is. It's really, really nearby. It's the same county, East Sussex, in the UK. So I also really like that connection whenever I watch her. And she did a whip dive, I recall it. So she went to look out for all her whips that she had. And I thought, well, I should do the same, given that I couldn't even think of a whip to show. And the reason is I've discovered I don't have as many whips as I thought I did. I use Ravelry, so I should know just by looking, but I somehow in my mind thought that I had more things on the needles that maybe I hadn't put in Ravelry, and I have a few project bags around which maybe still have some yarn in, and I probably just thought that they were projects, and they're not. So I'm going to give you the load-up rundown on all my whips, every single thing that I have on the needles. Because I don't currently have any secret design projects on the needles, so I can show you everything. So, you have seen, I think, all of these bar two. The first one I'm going to show is only going to be briefly. This is living in, this used to be, so Yarn Seller Studios on Etsy, makes fantastic bags, but she's not. She's called Cabin Creek Creations. I will link her. She makes excellent value project bags, which are really, really good size. So this is, I tend to use as my sweater size, and I think this is just, this might be her medium, not even her large. But anyway, she puts all her dimensions there. Anyway, this is my not so faded sweater. So I got the so faded sweater pattern because I really like just the look of the raglan, and I like the look of the design. I wouldn't rule out making a faded one, but I had some yarn that I wanted to use. So this has had incredibly minimal progress. I said I wouldn't show it on the podcast again until I separated with the sleeves. Haven't separated with the sleeves, but this is, part of, this is showing off all the whips. So there we are. I've cast on. These are the sleeves. I think everyone's familiar with this pattern now. You have these garter sections on the sleeves to sort of make the sleeve cap. And this is out of the Plucky Knitter. This is the Oxford base, which is not exactly the same base as available anymore. This was just called Oxford. Now they have Oxford 2.0. The blend is the same, which is a 75-25 merino cashmere non-superwash. This is the colour Strawberry Wine. It's a bit darker than that, as I've said. It's a little less red, a little touch more towards the burgundy, I would say, and darker. And I have 3 skeins of this, which should just about be enough for my size. I'm working it on higher sharps, and I believe I had to go down a needle size, so I'm working on 3.5mm, which are US 4s, higher sharps. So I was really keen to knit with this yarn and to have a non-superwash sweater, especially when working a seamless garment where you don't have the seams to add strength and structure to the garment, which I believe is an important thing, but not always in the mood to make something that's going to be seamed. It's nice to also be able to make seamless things, and superwash yarn does tend to stretch out a lot. And of course you can account for that in your gauge swatch. As long as your blocked gauge matches the gauge of the pattern, then it should be okay, because after you wash it, it will only stretch out to its blocked gauge. But I wanted to have a go at making a garment using a non-superwash yarn, which in theory, because the yarn grips to itself, it should maintain its shape better. So I am really keen to keep working on that. I do want that to be ready by the time it turns cooler again. Hopefully I'll bring it with me on my holiday, but I haven't been able to dedicate any time to it recently because of all the design work, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Okay, that's a whip you've seen before, and now for a whip you haven't. So a while ago, I was asked by Melissa of the Spicy Homemaker podcast if I would be a reviewer for a pattern collection that she had been asked to review and asked to find reviewers for. I unfortunately do not have the collection to show you, but it was called Point Counterpoint, and it was a collaboration between 2 designers. I do not remember the proper names of the designers, but I know that the designer of the pattern that I used, she goes by Kino Knits, that's K-I-N-O, and I will link I'll link the pattern collection on Ravelry, and you can check it out. It was a really interesting collection. I believe there were 3 patterns by each designer, possibly even 4, but at least 3, and the idea was that each of them designed a pattern in a certain yarn, and then they sent pictures, I believe, of that design to the other designer, and then they were meant to take an aspect of that and, using the same yarn, come up with a different design. Anyway, I chose to review and knit the Raindrop Mittens, and to be honest, it's sufficient to knit one to see how good the pattern is, obviously, and especially as this one did not have. The only difference between the left and right was a couple of the instructions for the thumb, so that you get the correct sides. The patterning that's involved on this is on both the palm and the hand, so they're incredibly similar patterns. So I will put on the one that I did knit and show it to you here. So I used a variegated yarn. In their case, they had used some Cascade yarn, a fingering sock weight. I don't know if it's called Cascade Heritage, and it was a gradient yarn, so it changed colour from the top to the bottom, and they do an even longer cuff. I knew that I didn't want that. I think the pattern was good. I did send them a couple of comments, but in general they give an awful lot of information. So they give you all the information of the sizes and a nice table with how much yarn you need for each size. They're very thorough patterns, all of them in the collection put together that way. For me, it came out a bit big, and I had asked them, is the size that you quote the hand to fit, is that the size of the finished mitten, or the size of the hand you want it to fit? And maybe is there some ease? But they had said it was the size of the finished mitten. I think in the end my gauge ended up being slightly off, but I'm going to gift these to my mother, who has slightly large. I have very small hands actually. But now the yarn, this is let me get the name correct. Do I have the tag here? Is it Dreams in Fiber? Or Dream in Colour, Smooshy with Cashmere. So this is a 75, I believe it's 75, 20, 70% merino, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon. I believe that that's the content. And this is in the colour Dark Currant that I remember. And you can see, so this is worked, actually worked from the top down. So you work down, you work your thumbs separately, and then you join them together, and then you keep going down. And you bind off at the end with a 2x2 tubular bind off, which was the first time I'd done that particular bind off. And this patterning here with these sort of slip stitches makes up what their raindrop pattern. So I think probably it would show better in some other yarn than I had chosen and wanted to use. But I wanted specifically to use this yarn for some mitts. It's a very soft, lovely yarn. I will say I have also used this yarn to swatch for designs in the past. I know that it runs like crazy, which is not perhaps surprising for a hand-dyed yarn in such such an intense colour, such an intense blue. But it really, really runs. And when I saw that, that was made me, really sure that I didn't want to use it in perhaps, like a 2-colour shawl or something. Anyway, so that's the little mitten. It looks a bit funny when it's just by itself, but on I think it looks fine, and it definitely does the job. And it's a nice pattern, and it's interesting. And yeah, the way that they had knit it top down, and then so you cast on the thumb first and knit that, and then you knit from the top of the mitt down, because of the gradient. It's a very long gradient yarn, the yarn that they used. So it meant that both of these sections were in the same colour, then you join and you go down, and then it changes into the other colour. So that was their way of doing it. Instead of just knitting the whole mitt and then coming back and doing the thumb, picking up and going out, for example, that wouldn't have worked with the style they wanted with the gradient. So it was a very well thought out pattern. Anyway, I have cast on the second one. Oh, so this actually helps you understand the construction. Perhaps I should have shown you this first. Ooh, there's another little bit of spare scrap yarn in there. So you can see now at this stage, this is the thumb, which I had knit first. This is the top of the mitt going down. And then, so now we're on the point where we're decreasing away the thumb gusset, and then I'll do the ribbing. I was working this on Chaogu needles, the red lace needles, ones with the sharp tip. And this one is a 2.25mm needle. And yeah, I think I'd seen that I had almost got gauge, at least when I'd done my little swatch to test, and I was not going down lower than 2.25 for sure, so maybe, my fault if they came out a little bit big. Anyway, so I will get these finished. My mother, I know that they're for my mother now. She doesn't need them right now, obviously, so these will be something to finish off and give to her as and when. Okay. One whip that I haven't actually got in front of me to show you is my Mandarin Shawl. I may run and grab that in a second, but first I'll show you what I had here. So a while ago I showed you these little socks that I was making for my daughter, and this is out of a lovely, this is yarn from Yarn Ink. It was a club colorway from August 2016. It didn't have a name, but it's basically like this beautiful, lovely powder sky blue with all the colors of the rainbow. It's a really lovely yarn. The toe I had done with a mini which I had from Rosie's Moments, which is a UK-based yarn dye. She sells quite a lot of nice, yarn in general, but mini kits, sets of minis with different colours, which you can use in whichever way you want, but I find it great for heels, toes and cuffs. In this case I didn't do the cuff that way, I just did the toe. I'm going to do an afterthought heel. I've marked where I want it to go here based on looking at my, sorry that's a hair, that's lovely, based on my daughter's foot. And I wouldn't have enough of the yellow if I want to do the other toe yellow as well. So she selected another mini from the same set from Rosie's Moments for the heel. So I will put that in. Probably this is definitely going to come with us on holiday. Hopefully I'll finish off the other one, and she'll have a lovely little pair of socks. And for this, I can't remember how many stitches it is. I just did a 1x1 ribbon simple at the top. And I'm pretty sure I cast this, I can't remember now if I did this cuff down or top. I don't remember, sorry. So, and here's the yarn for that in the cake. So I've already knit myself a pair of socks from this. I'm now going to knit a pair of socks for my daughter, and I'm still going to have enough probably for either a pair of shorties for me or I don't know what. I thought I might make like a sock head hat with what's left for my daughter. We'll see. I really love this yarn. It's so cheerful. It's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon classic sock blend. And that was the tag there. So this one is actually 363 yards for 100 grams. So it's on the probably on the a little bit on the finer side. So now on to another whip, which I have shown you before. This one I'm going to show you really quickly. I have actually restarted working on this recently. This is a pair of socks for my mother. This sock comes from, it's a Cookie A sock. It comes from her book. Is it Sock Architecture? No, it's not. It's not called that. Anyway, I'll link what the book's called. It's the Angie sock pattern. This is yarn from Spinnwebstube. It is in fact exactly the same base as I used in my, oh, where's it gone? Estonia Shawl. So it is 75 extra fine wool with 25% silk, which should make it strong enough, for socks. This is a long lacy sock. I'm going to be giving it to my mother. It has a heel flap and gusset, and I'm currently almost done with the leg on the second sock. This I'm knitting on 2.5mm red lace Chow Goose. And I like this. I don't find it the most fun to knit because it's a small circumference. You're going around and around and doing lace. And I think, for me in general, recently at least, when I'm doing a lot of other sort of more deadline-based knitting, when I want my on-the-go knitting, I've been using this as on-the-go knitting and I have to put out a chart because it has a chart to follow. And that's not really, so every time I just leave it and I take another plain simple sock or a simple hat or whatever else floats my boat, because I would rather work on that than have to keep looking at a chart. I'm out at the park watching the kids, talking to friends. So I understand very well why I haven't basically been working on that or finishing that. So another whip, which I have never shown anybody, and this has been in hibernation for an incredibly long time. It's not that I don't want to finish it or I'm never going to finish it, but the reason that this has not been worked on is that I was working on this when I decided to actually try and submit some of my design ideas for publication. The first things that I submitted, almost not the very first time, but within the first few weeks, I had 2 designs accepted and I had to start working on that. And I had never, properly written up a pattern before. I was already looking at editing patterns. I had a very good understanding of editing a pattern, but it's still a different thing to actually write your own pattern. You still have to hold yourself, to your own standards and develop that. And also knitting the sample within a deadline and sending it off. That's just something I hadn't done before. I hadn't knit to a deadline. So I just put this away. It's on a cable. I took off the needles and put it away. And of course I stopped mid-row, like you do when you put away a project for over a year. Anyway, I will come back to this, but I think I can still show it to you quite well. So it's on a cable here, and I stopped in the middle of the row. Anyway, this is called the Miss Grace Shawl. And this is a pattern by Skano. Skano is an American yarn company, although their yarn comes from Italy and is, I think, processed in Germany. This isn't their yarn, but the pattern is a free pattern. This is not how it's going to look at the very end. I will show you a picture now, but the picture is in a completely different types of colorways, which I actually don't particularly like. So I wanted to show you my project first. So this is the Miss Grace Shawl. When it's finished, so I'm only about halfway through. So the shawl starts down here at this point. So currently there's no border on it. The border's done at the end. And I have knit probably up to around, the usual problem here, up to around here. Around this point. Maybe a touch more. So in this case, there are still 3 colors, but you can hardly distinguish 2 of the colors from each other. One is a red, that's not very variegated, and the other is a variegated red. But it only really contrasts, in my opinion, with the other green. So you can't quite see all the design for me in this. But I have seen, they do sell kits of this with their yarn. So you can buy the whole kit and get the pattern, but you can also get the pattern separately for free, which is what I did. It's a bit of an interesting type of pattern to follow. You have to study it and understand. I haven't actually got the page with all of the full info on. This is the info on sort of getting set up with the pattern, which comes like this, and you can see the shawl down there. But these are all worked by working basically these little short row sections that form these, I would call them like leaves. And there are different types. There are ones at the edge, there are full ones in the middle, there are ones from the other edge. And at the very end, when you finish all of this and you get here, you then knit along here and you pick up all the way here, all the way down here, and then you knit this border all the way around. So all of it is in garter stitch, so there's no purling until you get to the border, which you do have to purl because it's in the round. And I, to be honest, had seen this Very Pink Knits. I'm sure you all know Stacey Perry of Very Pink Knits. She had done a tutorial on this shawl on her channel, and she knit a beautiful version with their yarn, obviously. So the yarn I'm using for this is yarn from Wollmeise. Wollmeise is a German yarn store, physical yarn store in Germany, and they sell online their hand-dyed yarn. And I will admit that I do not have the tags here, but I will put which colours these are down in the show notes when I fill them out. But this is their 100% superwash merino base, which I think for them is just called Pure. And it is what people say, that it has a very strange cotton feel. It's very twisted. I actually washed these skeins before winding them. So that while they were still in the skein, I opened them out, I soaked them, I hung them up to dry, and then I wound them. And I do think that helps, because I have knit now with one of their skeins, which I used for a test knit for Mina Phillips of the Knitting Expat. And when I used that yarn, which was this cream yarn, that had not been washed, and I could feel the difference. And I heard people say that it's better once you've washed it, and even washed it twice, like then when you block it, and then it feels like wool. Anyway, there is a strange feel to it. I get what people say about knitting with Wollmeise, but it's quite an amazing yarn. Each skein is 150 grams for, I don't know, like 500 meters or something. Anyway, so I have these two colors, and then you need more of the cream. I have more of this cream because I have some left over from what I used for the test knit. And yeah, so I think they looked really, really lovely together. And I think this is going to be beautiful when I put it back on the needles and work on it again. Which will probably be when I'm not feeling like doing a sweater and I want to get a big project back on the needles, that I'll put the needles back on here. This was being worked on 3.5mm needles as far as I remember. And I will, do some more work on this. I mean, to me, now that I've knit, when I started this, I had never knit a shawl. And this was a huge shawl to take on. It wasn't a normal project, but I think maybe that's why I liked it, because it started small. I could get going. You don't cast on a lot of stitches. Of course, there'll be a huge cast off, but I wasn't thinking that far ahead, to be honest. And now looking at it, like, there's not that many stitches there for a row, and there won't be even till, the very final end. It's still not going to be, 400, 500 stitches like in a classic top-down shawl. Still, all not talking about the border. So I'm looking forward to actually doing more on that again. And I did want to show it to you, but you won't be seeing it for a while. Excuse all the rattling. So how many whips have I showed you? I've shown you 1, 2, if you count my daughter's socks as well, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whips. I don't think that that's that much. Not for the kind of person that I am. And given that a couple of them I'm not even touching at the moment, I have no intention of doing so. So for me, that's fine. They're hibernating until I'm ready to finish them. Okay, so I do actually have 6 whips, because I also have the Meandering Shawl. So now I'm going to do what Molly of A Home's Fun House does, and go and get something. So this is my Meandering Shawl by Stephen West. I've shown it to you before. I have actually made, somehow it doesn't look like it, but I have made quite a lot of progress since I last showed it to you. Of course, now it's kind of all bunched up, but I can at least show you from the middle portion. So this is a yarn colours which show up way more contrasted on the camera for some reason than they do in real life. There is a lot of colours in there, but you can see it sort of shows up a bit strange there. You can see much nicer in person, the effect, I would say. These are 2 Club Colorway yarns from Hedgehog Fibers in their skinny singles. This side, the main colour on this side was called Nightlife, while on this side it's Crackle. And I just thought this was a perfect project to use 2 such special skeins. When I have moved my Progress Keeper, of course, since I last showed it to you, but I remember that it was up here. So I've knit all of this in 2 colour brioche, only ever knitting about 1 row at a time. And if you know 2 colour brioche, every single row is knit twice because you knit it with each colour. So to do a sort of a wrong, right side and a wrong side back, it's 4 rows. And 4 times working the row. And recently, I very rarely managed to do more than 1 4-row repeat. More typically, only a quarter or half of that. So it's been coming along slowly, but this I think I will definitely be bringing with me on holiday, and this will be my sort of slightly more complex project to work on. And here's the yarn in the skeins. So I have 6 projects on the needles, 2 of which I don't even count. the big Miss Grace shawl, because it's not even on the needles. My daughter's socks, which is one of them's done, and the other one will get done. So I'm kind of thinking I need to cast something on. So I'm going to have a think about that, what that's going to be. I do have another design, which I have 2 designs which I need to cast on, but they are designs for later on in the year, and they are also designs with heavier yarn, so I don't think I'm going to be casting them on before I go away, because it doesn't make much sense for me. So we'll see what the next thing to be on the needles will actually be. Maybe it'll be the Sprite Sven shawl that I was discussing a few episodes ago, from the Shawl Society number 2, from the Curious Handmaid, from Helen Stewart of Curious Handmaid. We'll have to see. I'm really looking forward to the idea of doing something new, but it's the first time in a long time where I haven't been like, oh, I know what I'm going to do now. So I'm kind of enjoying the possibility. I did want to mention, perhaps in the admin section, but anyway, now we want much later on, that I will be giving a knitting class called Basics of Brioche for people who want to maybe have either tried to dabble in brioche or haven't ever touched brioche. This obviously is only applicable to people living in Switzerland and I would say in the Zurich area. There is the Zurich Stitching Retreat, which will be happening at the end of September. It happens in Fellanden, which is a little tiny village just down the lake from Zurich City. And I will be teaching my class there on the last Saturday in September. I think it's the 30th of September. I will be teaching it in the morning for a couple of hours. So if anyone is watching this who happens to know about the Stitching Retreat or doesn't know about the Stitching Retreat yet is located in or around Zurich, then check it out. I will put the link in the show notes. I might even put the link for the Stitching Retreat website itself directly in the description box below so people can go check that out. There will also be a class on the following day by another woman teaching double knitting. I will say now I'm only teaching my class in English. I can't teach brioche knitting in German. I wouldn't be able to do that. Anyway, so the idea is that I will give an introduction to brioche, and I will provide everyone with like a pattern to knit either a basic, sort of scarf or cowl in 1 colour brioche, flat or in the round, and in 2 colour brioche, flat or in the round. So depending on what they wanted to tackle, there'll be no increasing or decreasing. And yeah, so that everyone can have a chance to see, with someone there to help them out, how brioche actually works. I do understand when people say it takes a certain mindset, but really I think that once you've got it, you've got it. There's nothing that complex about it. But it is kind of scary for some reason. So some people need someone there to show them. So I'm hoping that will be a good big success, in that people will actually be happy, with what I teach. It'll be a new venture for me. So the final thing that I wanted to share with you was just some stash enhancement. I've already been talking for half an hour, which I can't believe, but I guess I did show you quite a bit of stuff. I realise now that I didn't say where the project bags were from except for the first one. So I'm just going to quickly say that the socks that I'm making for my mother, this is a project bag from Mina Makes, which is Mina of the Knitting Expat. She doesn't make any bags at the moment. I don't think she has any plans to in the near future, but it is a lovely bag. This is a bag from My Crafty Dream, which is really cute. I think this is the first project bag I ever bought because I wanted something from Etsy that was nearby. So this actually comes from Italy. The maker, she's in the north of Italy. She has some very sweet bags at a very reasonable price. And the last project bag is this one. This is the Bee Splat bag by Mrs. Brown's Bags of the Grocery Girls. And I love this one. I love that the colours match the yarn that's inside. I'm not really a matchy person, but I couldn't resist that. The Miss Grey shawl lives in a plastic bag because she was cast on before I knew what a project bag was. Maybe she deserves her own project bag. I'll have to think about that. I've probably got something that I can put her in. Okay, so stash enhancement. Oh dear. So I popped into the Co-op is a supermarket chain here, and they have not just supermarkets, but they also have what I would call kind of department stores. They have the Coop City are a bigger shop, which may also have the food within them, but they sell clothes and things for your house and have a toiletry section, you know, bigger section, like a department store. And they also have haberdashery sections. Depending on how big the Co-op City is, depends on what the selection of yarn is like. And there is one not that far from me, and given that it's now summertime and their sales started here in June, I went to go and see if they had some yarn on sale, which they often tend to pick some of the yarns which are not summer yarns, and they put them on sale. And I've discovered something which I didn't even know existed. So this is yarn. I always pronounce this wrong. This is, someone's going to laugh at me now, Schachenmeier, and this is the mother brand that makes the Regia sock yarn. So most of you have heard of that. And this is their Merino 120, which just means it's 120 meters for 50 grams, I believe. 120 meters for 50 grams. It's an extra fine merino, super wash. So it's a DK basically. And this is the Arnie and Carlos design line. So this is 100% merino DK Arnie and Carlos yarn. So I couldn't resist. I thought about getting one ball, which should in theory be enough to make a hat, for example, for a child. But I thought I'll get two. They were on sale, 50% off. This colorway, probably again, might have a name on websites. They tend to do this on it, but on the ball band, I don't think I've ever seen a name. This is color 501. But they do have a little picture of how it should knit up. Again, I don't know on what gauge that would be knit there. Whether that would be like a hat gauge or, this clearly isn't a sock yarn. There's no nylon in it. But anyway, so I will have to just get that out, cast it on and see what it starts to look like. But yeah, I was thinking maybe gloves or a hat. I doubt there wouldn't be enough for both. Anyway, I thought that was really cute. And I love to try something new that I haven't tried before. The other, I'm looking around, I can't find it. Okay, there we go. Other yarn that arrived, I discovered a new indie dyer in the UK. New to me. I have no idea how long she's been dyeing, to be honest. I don't get the impression she's been dyeing for like years and years, but I don't know how long. And the yarn company is Family Tree Yarns on Etsy. And I discovered her because of the Grocery Girls. The Grocery Girls are terrible enablers. I've discovered many things because of the Grocery Girls. Yarn Inc. and Lolo Did It. And I try not to just immediately go and buy, but I just sort of think about things. This one, I paused the podcast of the Grocery Girls. Sorry, Tracy. Sorry, Jodie. I paused you and I went straight to Etsy and I bought this yarn and then I went back. And it was really something about the whole idea. Tracy and Jodie are great when they explain other people's, things that other makers do. They try and understand what they're doing and why. And for this particular dyer, she I'm not saying only maybe, but predominantly dyes things based on a memory. So a place, the memories and feelings that she has about a certain place, but something that's personal to her, that she's actually been, that reminds her of something she used to do with her kids or something that she did when she was young. This is the understanding I got, at least. And I just love that idea. And I like the colours. I mean, I wouldn't buy yarn just based on the idea. So I went to her website, and the first one I picked out, this is one I don't know exactly what the memory would be. It's called Standing Stones, which to me would mean something like Stonehenge. So not only Stonehenge, in other places in the UK, there are huge stones which were placed by the Druids to represent things that they thought were sacred, to make sacred shapes and what have you. I don't know all the history of these things, and I've heard a lot of things about them over the years, but I wouldn't want to say something without having done some research immediately beforehand. But to me, that's what standing stones would mean, but I have no idea what this one means. But it's absolutely beautiful. It's all this grey with a bluish tone to it, then with these blue and teal speckles, some green running into it. This is my kind of jam. It's a bit of muted my jam, but it definitely is the kind of things I love. And this is on my absolute favourite base in general, which is an 80-20 high twist, so 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, but a high twist. Just think it's beautiful. So yeah, this is 400 meters for 100 grams. First. The second one I picked out was called Crabbing at Padstow. Crabbing is when you go to try and catch those little crabs we used to just do it with this little spool of a fishing wire. I don't remember what we even used to put on the end, but I've done it too. Also down, Padstow is a town in Cornwall. I've been there once on holiday when I was 11, and it's where I had my ears pierced. So it also has, I have a very strong memory based on that place. And I just love this again with some of these sort of greys, but more, less grey, even a taupey look, these beautiful blues, and of course this beautiful sort of coral crab colour. And again, I think that's lovely. This instead is her 75-25, so more classic superwash merino nylon sock yarn. I still like this base. I love the high twist base. You can see, I just love the definition that it gives on the high twist base. And the final one that I picked up was on her MCN base. So hers is 80-10-10, 80% merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, and this is Wimbledon. And it's Wimbledon this week. Wimbledon started on Monday this week, to the beginning of July. I love Wimbledon. I have never been to Wimbledon, and I still kind of can't believe that, because I really, really love Wimbledon. And obviously for me, anyone who doesn't know, Wimbledon is the one of the 4 big tennis championships in the world. It's the one which takes place on grass in the UK, in London, in Wimbledon, in London. It's a big deal in the UK, Wimbledon. And the symbol of Wimbledon, so Wimbledon is green, in general, a darker green than this. All the colouring are all around the courts, but the courts are grass, which is a brighter green, and you have strawberries and cream when you're at Wimbledon. Wimbledon is strawberries and cream to everyone. So here you have these beautiful strawberry reddish going into pink with the cream, and then you've got the green. This is less my jam in terms of what I would actually sort of knit with, but I just love it. I told myself when I was buying these that one of these would be for a giveaway at some point, and I will do that. Oh, and I didn't show it actually. There was also a lovely little progress keeper that came attached to this one. So it's like Tinkerbell with her magic wand. I'm holding her upside down. Poor Tinkerbell. Anyway, she's got her little wings there and the little magic wand. So cute. So I will give away one of these at some point. Not sure which one it will be. But I want to say, certainly, if you liked the look of any of that, I don't want to become an enabler particularly, but I really, really liked it, and I'm really glad with what came. And the final acquisition I wanted to show, hopefully shouldn't be a spoiler, we are now in July, so Deb of Devlin Fiber opened up a club over a month ago, for something to arrive in June, July and August. And it's slightly different club in that it's not always going to be yarn. So I think I think she had said the first month would be yarn, probably a sock set, which is what this was, what this is. The second month would be a bag, and the third month would also be yarn, but I think with a difference in that you could pick a colour or some inspiration, and she would be dyeing something so specific, kind of custom dyed for you. And I love Raindrop Fiber, and this is June's 2017 Yarn Club. If you don't want to see it because you haven't got yours, please look away. Look away, don't listen, because I'm going to describe it and mention its name, and its name is quite descriptive. So, here it is. There's also a little, get that out in a minute. It is called Lavender Sunset. It's a full skein and a mini skein. So a lavender mini skein, and then this, lavender and sort of almost tequila sunrise colours mixed in. I think it's beautiful. And this is 100% superwash blue face Leicester. So I think that's really, really special. I quite like it because it's the kind of thing which I just would never buy this, but now it's here and it's in front of me, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's really, really beautiful. And also with it came with, oh, I can't open these. See, this is the problem of not having nails. I have the weakest nails in existence. I always have to ask my husband to use his nails to do things, which is kind of crazy. Okay, and it came with these two little stitch markers, so ring stitch markers, with these lovely sort of, purplish thing, and one little progress keeper, which came in this nice little organza bag. So a lovely special little club there from Deb of Raindrop Fiber. So this is everything that I really wanted to share with you this week. I'm glad that I managed to get an episode in because, as I said, I will not be podcasting for the rest of July. Who knows, maybe I'll try and make some kind of vlog when I'm on holiday, but the reality is I'm with my family and who knows what we'll be doing from day to day. So I don't want to be thinking about that. Maybe I'll put something together if I think it's of any interest to anyone else. Otherwise, I will not see you till August. So I wanted to say happy summer to everybody. If you're going away in July, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. If you are not, for me it's a bit strange to be going away in July. I've always been an August holiday person, but this year we're switching it up a bit. And so I will be back in August to speak to you again. And I just hope that everyone's having a good time where they are, still managing to get in some knitting, whatever type of project you prefer to knit in summer. And I look forward to being able to catch up with everyone again. Bye!